Sometimes, when people have a legal issue at work, before they talk about that issue with an employment attorney, they try to get advice from other people or other sources, and this often leads them to getting the wrong advice. Let me just give you a few very common examples of that. Let's say you have a legal issue at work. Let's say you have a conflict with your boss and you believe that it's a result of discrimination or retaliation against you. But maybe you're not sure. So you call up one of your friends, and that friend might be a highly accomplished businessman, or a highly accomplished and highly educated professional, or someone who you believe had a similar case to yours. And you tell them your story. They don't ask you critical legal questions. They only hear what you have to say, and then they give you a specific advice. Maybe they tell you to write a very strong, threatening letter to your boss because they think, they believe, based on their experience not as employment lawyers, but as someone else, maybe even as lawyers, but not employment lawyers. They believe that being aggressive and writing a very threatening letter is the right thing to do. You follow their advice and you end up being fired because of that letter. And then maybe you have a case against your employer, maybe you don't, but the bottom line is you lost your job and you did not mean to. That's not what you wanted to accomplish. This is just one example of how seeking advice from people who are not employment lawyers, who maybe know some things but not everything, people who maybe know theory, maybe they even know some law, but they don't know how things work out in practice, can backfire and can hurt more than help. Another example, you may believe that you have a valid case of harassment or discrimination. You start reading up on this. You start Googling different terms. You find different articles written by different lawyers. You look up different cases that you believe are very similar to yours. And you create a certain idea about what your case is and what it is worth. And you start believing that your case is very strong and that it's worth a lot of money. And you start looking for an attorney to represent you, and a number of attorneys explain to you maybe that your case is not as strong as you think it is. You tend to believe what you read. You tend to believe less to these lawyers. Eventually, you find someone who tells you that your case every bit as great as you believe it is. They charge you a bunch of money, and then you end up not getting a lot out of that case, or you end up losing that case or having that case dismissed altogether, all because you relied on a few things you saw on the internet who you thought were similar to your situation, but they were not. And all because you decided not to listen to maybe 4 or 5 reputable, experienced employment lawyers, but you decided to listen to someone who overpromised you, who made things sound better than they are. You followed them, and maybe you were not taking advantage of them, but you ended up spending a lot of time, a lot of energy, and maybe a lot of money for no good reason. So, just like you would not be seeking advice about your shoulder problem from a heart surgeon, however amazing that heart surgeon is, just like you wouldn't be asking your plumber about your car issue, you should not be asking other people, and even attorneys who do not know the intricacy of employment law, the intricacies of employment law in your state. You should not be seeking advice from these people. You should be seeking advice from reputable, experienced employment attorneys who can look at your situation not only from a theoretical, not only from a legal point of view, but also from a practical point of view. Because talking about the law alone, what's right and what's wrong, what legal and what's not legal, is one thing, but keeping the whole picture in mind is so important. Looking at your own situation, asking what is the best thing to do, what will serve your interest best in light of all the circumstances, not just the law, but your personal situation, your financial situation, your employment prospects in the future if you are getting terminated or if you decide to resign, and all the other factors, because often they're just as important or even more important than the law. So save yourself the trouble and save yourself the pain of getting the wrong advice about your legal issue from the wrong people and the wrong sources, and seek advice from the right people. Do it once, do it twice, get the best advice, and this will help you make the best decisions. Thank you.